Hi, I am looking for to hire someone to help me to basically do a task for me that I don't have the time to do. It's not important enough, and it would take too long to justify making it like this project in my life. It's basically a project that shouldn't need to be done, but it is a thing that happened because I took my MacBook that I've had since 2012, 2013, something like that, and took it to the Geek Squad at Best Buy, asking them to basically copy the entire contents of it onto an external drive so that I could then selectively remove things, from its memory and try to get the computer working much faster and better. And instead of following my instructions, they copied the internal drive and then wiped my computer completely and then returned it to me, which was not what I asked them to do. Therefore, I no longer have access to iTunes or all of the playlists that I had curated over, the past, whatever it's been, 14 years. And I'm really pissed off about that because I was using those playlists for other purposes in my life besides just, entertainment. They helped me with MarsCon, they helped me with my podcasts, etc., etc., etc. The upside is I do have the external drive that has all those files, and I also have my iPod, which still works and still has those playlists saved on it. But as far as I know, you can't plug an iPod into, a machine and have it pull all of that playlist data off of the iPod into, somebody's iTunes. But the overall problem beyond that is the fact that Apple doesn't let people have iTunes anymore. Everything is Apple Music. And basically, I'm really pissed off about that. So the main task I am looking to find somebody to help me do is basically I will send them my iPod along with like the charger and everything, so that they can go through these playlists and basically type up the playlists that are in the iPod, so that I have use Google Drive or whatever and make a playlist of all of the tracks in all of these playlists, and there are a few dozen of them. Some are more important than others, some I wouldn't care about at all, but there's a certain set of them that are very important to me, that I can get access to that information, and attempt to recreate these things, either on Spotify or using some other program to, organize my music. So if you are a person who might be willing to let me pay you or in some other way compensate you to do this task of me shipping you my iPod and then you going through it and seeing the names of the songs, like as much information it gives as it'll give you, and typing it up into some kind of document or Google spreadsheet, whatever makes the most sense, so that I can have copies of all these playlists. I would, that's what I'm looking for. Who's willing to be a person to take on this task for some form of either monetary or other form of compensation, such as artwork or some other use of my talents. And furthermore, this is kind of the bonus round. If you know somebody who is familiar enough with the Apple computer systems and programs and etc., and has access to earlier versions of iTunes that could be downloaded onto my MacBook, I'd also be interested in having my MacBook shipped to that person so that they could set up an old version of iTunes on my MacBook, so I could then take those files saved in the external drive and those lists that somebody would make for me, so that I could personally reconstruct all of those playlists into iTunes on that MacBook. I know this all sounds ridiculous, but this is everything that was robbed from me when Best Buy couldn't follow a simple instruction. Like I said, 14 years of working on these curated playlists that I had so many plans for, and they just destroyed them all by not following, the customer's instructions. So that, like I said, the main thing I'm looking for is someone I could ship my iPod to, and have someone be willing to look through scroll through the lists. I'll send the charger and everything so that it's all good, and have you go through these playlists and write down the names of all the files, and type up the names of all the files in some sort of probably Google Drive file, either as a doc or a spreadsheet, whatever makes more sense. And then the other thing being, if there's anyone out there who is trustworthy, who I could ship my MacBook to and have them install a version of iTunes that is somewhere floating out there on the web where programs still exist, so that way they could ship it back to me, and then I could use the lists to recreate all those playlists so that I can start using my iPod again, and etc. I basically just repeated myself twice, but whatever. I just wanted to make sure I'm clear about what I'm asking for. So if you're a person out there who's willing to do this, contact me via it's pretty well known how to get a hold of me in various ways. All of my social media handles are typically at the Great Luke Ski. On TikTok, I'm at the _great_Luke_ski for some reason. But yeah, there's ways to reach me. If nothing else, go to my storyboarding website, portfolio website, which is www.luke.ski, and there is a form there for contacting me that will shoot me an email, and you can just put in the subject line track list, MacBook iPod assistance or whatever, something like that, just so I know that you're not a person trying to contact me about storyboarding work. Anyway, just wanted to put this out there while I had some time here on the highway. So there we go. Anyway, let me know. Sorry this particular message isn't entertaining. It's just me asking for help. So yeah, talk to you all later.